Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of A Different Perspective, Raising Vibrations While Chasing Squirrels.
All right, I'm the Charles. Time out. And we only do this on one take, so you're getting this, live, and this is actually this was scripted.
No,
this was really scripted. I messed up on,
So anyway.
script. Yes.
So this is John Thunderheart. I'm Beanie Man,
Yes.
Mo, our service dog. Well, my service dog, but he's like the hostess with the mostest.
Yeah, he's over
And
here.
our amazing guest. So I'll let you introduce our guest.
This is Lori Mediavilla. Incredibly smart, varied experiences in life person. Welcome, Lori.
Welcome to the show, Lori.
Great to be here.
You can look up at the camera there too.
You can. You don't have
You
to.
don't have to. Yeah.
This is a relaxed and let's have a conversation kind of format.
Sure.
So,
Right.
I'm gonna get to Pet Mosey.
I know.
Yeah.
My shy and introverted
It's good to
dog.
be here.
What I was trying to say before is I'm the squirrel chaser. I just can't happen to say that, unless
Say
I
that
really
3
slow
times
down.
fast.
Then everybody's going to be wet. So
Yeah, no.
we don't want that. So Lori, tell us a little bit about
Hi, I'm
who you are.
Lori Mediavilla, also known as Lori Medwolf. So, like
And then-
John Thunderheart,
Yeah.
known John for since 2011?
2011, yeah. That's where we
And so
met.
I'm the oldest of 5, an Air Force brat. So we spent a lot of time growing up in Spain and Puerto Rico, and I really like that, learning different cultures. My father is Hispanic, and he was also in the Air Force and a surgeon, but unlike other surgeons, well, the stereotype, he was very welcoming. He had that Hispanic nature, wonderful bedside manner. My mother was a nurse. I have 4 younger brothers and sisters. So I ended up, I thought I wanted to go into medicine. I knew my father really wanted one of us kids to go in there. But I ended up being a physician assistant because, clinical psychology. Yeah, I really liked people. I was one of those people where people would come and tell the problems to, and we kind of work out something. And
Nice.
so I got a master's in clinical psychology and worked with head injury patients, and then found out I got really specialized. And then I heard about physician
So what you're saying is you're really special?
Yes.
She loves those yellow buses.
And I heard about something called physician assistant, where you could actually spend a lot more time with the patient. And I had a child, Danny, who was just amazing kid. And I thought, this is so fun, I think I'll try pediatrics. So I was in that for a while,
Wow.
for like 13, 14 years. And then I wanted to branch out, so I did different avenues of medicine. And then I really pushed myself and crossed over into adult medicine by doing an underserved clinic where I was the only provider. And that taught me a lot. The people are very special, but it was very difficult. But now I'm seeing how everything came together. I've always had a special association with animals, and John's been telling me that for years, but now I finally believe it.
Yay!
So I went to be a certified vet tech and decided that I just wanted to more work with them on a sitting level and a healing level, healing touch for animals, as opposed to restraining them while they're undergoing surgery or intubating them. So now I'm just doing all kinds of things. I'm helping my parents out. I'm going to work for Dispatch Mobile Health, where you actually go out to people's homes.
Oh, I love that.
And so
That's
it's
so
more
needed.
the house call, where you get 45 minutes with the person instead of the business
10
really
to 15
saying
minutes, yeah.
If
10
you're
minutes,
lucky.
one problem.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. And then I'm doggy sitting on the side and helping my parents, and then doing shows like this, and hopefully working more with animals and believing that I can communicate with them.
Oh, I think you can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know she can.
Well,
she
what do
talks
you
to
think?
me. You know?
Squirrel?
Squirrel!
Oh, you're Sandy's friend, huh? So it's a nice balance right now. It's been a journey.
All right. Now, you went the traditional route for so many years. What got you into, say, non-traditional things, where you start trusting your gut and listening and...
Well, you were a big part of that, as far as noticing it and pointing it out to me. But then you have to come to believe it. But I really got tired of giving people pills.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted to treat the whole person. I just didn't want to say, oh, for this side effect, take this pill, this pill, this pill. And then I really wanted to nail the diagnosis instead of Medicaid probably.
Well, I mean, and I believe that a lot of times pills, they don't cure the issue.
Right.
They're just masking it.
Right.
You know, it's like putting a Band-Aid on like somebody who cut off their arm or so, you know.
Right.
And the blood is still gushing. And it's like that Band-Aid does nothing, and to me pills is, for a lot of times, it's just what they do there.
So I'd rather get to the root of it, and so there was always one place I worked where it was always a confrontation between a doctor and I, and you know, a lot of crying, but a lot of growing. And I didn't know if I had a good gut instinct for medicine or not. And so after a couple of years, I realized that if I just sat with it and see how it felt on the inside, if it made sense, then I learned to trust that.
Good.
And to actually listen to the patients, what they're telling me. Because you know your body well, you know your child's body
because
well.
you know, you go see a doctor, they tell you da 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 da, and it's like, and you lived in my body, what, how long? Oh yeah, never.
Right.
So I think there's such
So.
a time push to get through it that they don't listen. And now a lot of times they showed that if you did a good history and a good physical exam, 90% of the time you get the diagnosis. But hardly anyone asks much of a history, and you go to a doctor's office now, a lot of times they don't even touch you.
Oh, I know.
So you're just, and in medical school, you don't even get a class on physical diagnosis.
And sometimes, so this is what happened to me actually. So they diagnosed me like years ago with multiple sclerosis, and I've been off my meds for a few years now, and I just wanted to see, you know, what's happening, what's going on. So I went to see a neurologist, and he goes like, so why are you here? And I said, I just want to make sure, you know, everything is still whatever. And he goes, because I'm not interested in meds. This is what he did. Oh, I cannot help you. Closed my file and walked out. No kidding.
That's awful.
No kidding. I was like, what the fire truck, man? What just happened? I mean, I heard that happening to people, but I didn't believe it.
Right.
Because I still had somewhat of a belief in the medical doctors.
It was out of his comfort zone, and you know, once you start to incorporate alternative medicines and what the patient wants and come up with a plan together, that's a lot of work, but that's what works.
Right.
Is encompassing
Well, I mean, it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, one of the biggest problems is that the medical schools are funded, like the new wings.
No,
the new
I'll tell you it
classrooms.
isn't.
So.
You mean Big Pharma is behind it all?
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Well, it's true if you do the histories behind and the donations and everything. They're the ones who are leading, quote, all the research, all these different things in the med school. So what are you learning? What are the new doctors learning? They're learning medications. They're learning this mask, you know, this masks this symptom.
But see, and that's why I love like what you guys do, and what more and more people are doing is looking at I call it the better way.
Right.
You know, because it really looks at the whole person and it looks at the alternatives, and it's like there's so much more to it than the reason you're hurting here is because you have these underlying issues. A lot of times it's the negative emotions that are manifesting.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a really good book and I love it. It's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die.
And who's the author on that? Do you remember?
Carol Truman, I believe.
Ah.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing book.
You'll have to bring that up to me later on.
I will.
I'll look that up. I had a client the other day that she came to see me, and she's a doctor, and she was, you know, I thought she was coming for a healing session, and she said, no, I want a, you know, a reading. And she goes, my lower back is killing me, right? And I said,
Oh, she needs to rephrase that.
right? Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
exactly.
Really will.
Words!
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Right, and I sat there and I said, well, the lower back is about support too.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not feeling support right now, like your world just opened up and she, lo and behold, there was an emotional thing that went on in her life, but right away, just from her statement, I got so much information
Mm-hmm.
without knowing that, and I brought up relationship, I brought up all these different things, and
Because it's all connected.
It
It's
is.
all
It
connected.
it is, it's all the chain, and like Lori was saying, if the doctors listened
Mhm.
and took the time to find out what's going on in their lives, they would have a diagnosis where they could help the person without having to give them all the pills.
Right.
You remember that one woman that she was very ill, the doctor was prescribing something, and you know, we had talked and I said, trust your gut, and
See, I don't remember this, but he does. I don't
Yeah.
remember the
well,
patient.
she had a
Because
client.
eventually all the squirrels come back
Ah.
because they need to feed.
Yeah.
He's in that, yeah.
Well, one of the things, the client, she spent the time talking to the client and getting a little bit more history where the doctor didn't find out the history. She started putting two and two together. She started looking at the medication list at what she was on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Noticing that there were some things in here that they really shouldn't be going together for one.
Mm.
Right?
And you know, a lot of times that's the problem too.
And she said there was something, you know, a little, I guess, hint in your mind that this one particular test, if it was given, it might be this one particular illness, but it's really rare, so it's not well known. And she ordered the test.
And bam.
Well, the test proved that the woman didn't have what the test was designed for, but it was the only test that would show an imbalance in some other area.
I don't remember.
And when that came up, and you were devastated that you didn't get the right diagnosis. You were like, man, I said this, but it did, and I said, you got it. No, but you found the avenue that you were able to diagnose what
Right.
was really going on. The woman had a lot of things going on. The doctor, basically a death sentence to her, and you got her off certain medications.
I wish I remembered.
Yeah, well,
I have so many stories from that one set clinic.
oh my goodness,
So
yeah.
part of it is like what's happening in the medical arena is a lot of doctors are leaving medicine because it's being pushed as a business.
Oh,
So it's
it is
not
business.
our choice to have 10 minutes. You get one presenting complaint, and that's dangerous because you're not seeing the whole interactions with that, and you can miss a ton of things. The other thing is that everyone is so specialized
Mhm.
that they only look at one part and they prescribe a medication. Nobody's looking at the whole picture and how it interacts. And you know, as family practitioners before, you were seeing the whole person and treating the whole person. That's why Dispatch Mobile Health, which I like, is going back and giving the power back to the patient and the provider so that you can have an hour like it was meant to be. That's why we went into medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself being at the right place at the right time to be medical advocate for people in my family, and there's just one horse story after another.
Well, you know what I've done for the longest time, and now I have a great provider, but before I went in with a list.
Yep.
This is what's going on, and I can recommend that for anybody.
Yes,
Because you know
absolutely.
your body better than anybody because you live in your body 24/7.
Right.
You know, so make a list. This is what's going on, and da. And I think, I always said, and I said, this is what I need, what I'm definitely looking at getting. Da.
Oh, that's good. I thought I was the only one who did that.
No.
I want this. Really?
You know, and it was interesting. I actually had because we're military also, you know, so every time we go, we pretty much see a different doctor.
Right.
And I know they don't look at your medical records because they don't have time. It would take just that time
They
that's
should,
allotted.
Yeah.
Well, they should, but they don't. So for me going in with my list, it made it easier for them. And I had a few of them was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is helping a lot.
And everyone should do that.
And I think everybody should do that.
Mhm.
Oh,
Instead of just this like, oh, you know,
just this segment of what you're just saying right here, you know, those who are listening, pass the video on to other people.
Right.
Because this will save lives.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And if
And misdiagnoses.
Mhm.
right, if you don't understand something, have someone explain it. Have them explain your lab work. If you have a gut feeling, especially mom with their children, mom knows. Mom knows best.
That's right.
And so
Mama knows.
there was
Did you hear
one.
that, boys?
There was one
Did you
girl.
hear it? No.
Mama knows best. So they will give you the information that you need if you listen. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, the other thing too is, and talking about seeing the specialist, because I mean, I was dealing with knee pain for the longest time, and I got to the point where I went to the doctor, like, you know what, figure out, because I had my first knee replacement, but then, I mean, the pain got so bad, and it was right on here, and I went in and I told him, I said, you know, figure out what's going on, fix it, or I'm going to draw the dotted line for you. I was ready to cut that leg off.
Wow.
Fun fact, it had nothing to do with my leg, it all came from my back.
Mm-hmm.
But they were focused on the leg, so I had another knee replacement,
Mm-hmm.
but I still had the pain.
Yep.
Well,
But that just
Join a
proves the
bed,
point
yeah,
right
that-
there.
The
Well,
whole physical exam.
It's
referred
all
pain.
connected, it's all together.
just my story.
You have a
Oh
story?
yes,
Yeah.
that was.
You know, I was in training, right?
Uh-huh.
30 seconds left in defensive tactics, right? All of a sudden I felt like a sharp explosion like in my back,
Mm-hmm.
and my arm dropped.
I
And I'm still fighting, you know, my arm's flailing all by itself. I go this way, the arm goes that way.
So you were like one of those
Yes.
those air
Yes.
things?
Yeah. The left arm was just floating around all by itself, you know.
Man, that's scary.
And then they stopped everything, and it was 30 seconds to the end of the day, end of that part of the training aspect, and, you know, it took a while for my hand to come back to have any
Mm-hmm.
use. So 2 days later, I went to the doctor, and they wanted to look. They kept saying my shoulder. They did not take any X-rays of my cervical spine.
Mm.
All right. They eventually took
No,
an
because it
X-ray
was the arm that was
of my
affected.
thoracic, which Lori, she's, you know, later on she said when we started, you know, becoming friends, when we started dating, she ended up going, well, why, if your arm is gone down, why didn't they take an X-ray of your cervical spine? I said, I don't know. They were insisting it was shoulder.
Because they're the
or-
doctors and they know everything.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes insurances don't want you to take the X-ray the first route. They want you to do anti-inflammatories.
Oh yeah.
So
Right.
I would just go for it.
Right, well, and I think they actually put me into therapy at that point too, but they ended up only taking a thoracic X-ray, and then they sent me to a shoulder specialist who took an X-ray of the shoulder and saw there was some damage there. But the thing, bottom line was, it was over a year later. I had shoulder surgery. I was having, you know, muscles. My arms were contracting. My legs, I was weak. Sometimes it was hard to stay standing.
That's scary.
It was progressively getting worse. And then they wanted me to come back to work. And I said, I went to the chiropractor. And she says, well, I'm not going to do any adjustment if there's something. What about your cervical X-ray? No, there wasn't one. She's like, what? So lo and behold, they wanted me back to work. The chiropractor signed a note saying 2 weeks. They called me up, so the doctor's note said, well, that's a chiropractor. We don't accept their opinion. You have to go to a regular. So I went to the employee clinic. The employee clinic, she did some neurological tests, you know, basic stuff, and she says, I'm not really getting any negative type things. And I told her the story. She goes, well, where's your cervical X-ray? I said, they didn't take one. She goes, are you kidding me? So she sent me out for a cervical X-ray, got the results, panicked when she got the results.
Oh wow.
And she says, you need to get an MRI today. There is no putting it off. What I see here is extremely serious. And then I went that next Monday, got it done. She saw it. She says, you are not going back to work. I would prefer you stayed on one level in the house, not climbing any stairs. And you need to see a neurosurgeon immediately.
Wow.
Immediately. I had a bone spur severing my spine. I had very little spine left. And
Oh man.
the surgeon was absolutely surprised that I was functioning. He didn't think I'd be moving around.
That's super scary.
Yeah, and this is what the medical,
Right.
you know, because of big pharma, because of insurance companies, the business model instead of the people model.
Right.
And this is what's happening, and I mean, my story is probably a minor one compared to so many people out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
if it wasn't really for Lori bringing a lot of that up, I probably wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
Well, no, part of it was, when we started dating, I just wanted to be a girlfriend. I didn't want to be like
The doctor, the advocate,
doctor.
thing,
So I
but you
didn't wanna
automatically
be-
take over anyway.
It's your
Which is-
show too.
But the one thing that concerned me, like I had an aunt, and she was in New York, and she was on a blood thinner, and she had a horrible
I
headache.
think Mo's blocking you right now.
No.
He wants to be on TV.
I know
says.
he does.
He wants to be in this chair. He
Yeah,
wants sitting here
Well, see if you will
interviewing
get
you.
up. Let's try it.
Mo, would you like to sit here?
Well, I mean, he wanted an interview all with him. He wanted to
take
be
my seat.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
He wanted to be
You
that.
want an interview with just me? All right.
That's right. See, I told
The
him.
Mo Show.
The Mo Show.
I love him so much. Do
He's
you
like,
want to have
yeah,
your own?
mommy, interview everybody, but not me. What about me? Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I'll interview you.
So anyway,
Anyway.
with my aunt, she's not one to complain, and I really felt like she had a brain bleed.
Oh wow.
And, that's the first thing you rule out. And it turns out that she went to 3 different doctors who just blew it off. And finally I told my mom, this is really a brain bleed. They have to rule it out. So the only way she could get the attention is to have her, her roommate, who was like 78, call an ambulance so she could go into the ER and get the CAT scan to prove there was a brain bleed. But that took 3 weeks, 3 visits to the doctor, and that was potentially lethal. So they put a burr in her head, released that, but things like that happen all the time. And, especially if someone says, I'm not a complainer, John is not a complainer. So when somebody like that starts to complain,
There's a real problem.
there's
And I get that I'm the same way.
real problem. So that's one of the things I always ask, do you have a high pain tolerance? And if you say, yeah, I have a really high one, then you're like, ooh, then I really need to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just...
It's really important because it's about the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, and that's why I love why we decided to do the show. To let y'all know there are other alternatives out there. There is
Right.
more out there, and it's your right, it's your responsibility, to push for it. If you feel there's something not right, and you feel it's coming from wherever they're telling you it's not, push for it.
Right.
Because you're the biggest advocate. You really are your biggest advocate. If you don't speak up for yourself,
Right.
Well,
They
no-
do not know everything.
no.
Just because they have education, but if the education is bent in a certain direction
Mhm.
and leans towards a certain area, it doesn't cover the rest of it.
Right.
And that's what our medical profession
Mm-hmm.
has gone into, because of the big almighty
Right.
dollar, unfortunately.
Well, and some people don't know the questions to ask what
True.
Right.
they had. So that's why I like being a medical advocate too, or the choices that you have. But also what's happening in the medical field is these lone doctors who are really good with what they did in family practice are being pushed out because they're being bought out, like individual companies are being bought out, like DaVita and UC Health. And so a lot of doctors are just deciding to retire instead of being pressed into that big group and having to practice medicine like the business model.
Mhm.
Even my father said, if he were going into medicine today, given the choice, he probably would not. So a lot of times it's not about the caregiver or the provider, it's
It's a system.
the system, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's completely broken. And the system now, for many years has been trying to stop the use of alternative modalities, medicines, herbs, all these types, to regulate them to the point where only the pharmaceutical companies can do these things. We have the Colorado Health Freedom Act, and a friend of mine was very instrumental in lobbying many years to get that in so that, I can do what I do. But it's still, there's restrictions that were put in it that
Right.
make it very difficult to to be as effective as we could be.
And I think a lot
because
has
it's not
to do-
believed in.
Right, and that's exactly it, because people don't understand it, and people fear what they don't understand. And instead of educating themselves and learning
Exactly.
more about it, they jump on the bandwagon. You know, I mean, that's why there's the genocides, that's why there's all of those things.
Right.
Instead of understanding, you know, and making the connection and figuring out what do we have in common, you know, let's find some common ground and build from there. It's like, well, you're different from me, so you're the enemy. And it doesn't matter what it is.
Well, a lot of the things that, you know, alternative stuff that we do has been around for longer than modern medicine.
Right.
What?
Isn't that amazing?
What? Say it isn't so.
I wish I could, but I can't.
I
you
know.
But I mean, you look at the Chinese system,
Right.
you know, with the meridians and
Right.
so forth in the body, and those have been proven.
Mhm.
But at the
But
same
there's not
time,
much money in it, you can't monetize it.
not as easily, no. You know, unless they increase acupuncture pins. You know, each pin costs
Right.
$500. Like who was that person? That
Mhm.
company that just did up the pills for the diabetics.
Oh, the
or one of
EpiPen thing?
Well, the EpiPen, man,
Oh,
that's a
that
great
too.
big
And
example.
insulin.
From
Right.
something that cost $100
If
to
that.
$5,000, if that,
Right.
to $5,000 a pen.
I mean, it costs them pennies really to make.
Right. it
Yeah.
does.
I mean,
But
How
supply
can you
and demand, it's
justify
a
that?
business.
yeah, but that
And
is
that's why I love, did you see Colorado actually passed the cap? They can only charge up to a certain amount for
Really?
the insulin now.
yeah. Well, that I didn't know that, but that's good
It's,
to know.
it's a huge win,
It's sad that that has to happen in the United
Right.
States.
I was-
It's just,
yeah.
yes.
I was talking to my sister-in-law. She has to have one with her. She held one. It was 5 years old, and the doctor said, "This probably ain't going to do anything for you. It's way out of date."
Hmm.
And she says, "Well, I can't afford, $5,000 to replace my pen."
And you know, and to me, that's kind of like ironic, because it's supposed to save lives.
Right.
Yet, the stuff that saves life, it costs pennies to make, is inaccessible for those who really need it.
Okay.
Which, to me,
Mhm.
I don't get that.
Yeah,
I'm not connecting the dots on that
Well,
one.
my perspective, the different one.
of course.
While I'm chasing my squirrels,
Squirrel.
and I said it right this time.
Yes, you did.
Is that now if I took this EpiPen and I injected myself, I might save myself a trip to the hospital,
Mhm.
where
You mean you would save hundreds and thousands of dollars?
hundreds of thousands of dollars, which wouldn't go into that
Pot.
monetary system of medical care today. That's why that's $5,000. Someone's going to get that money.
But you know, it's
That's my thought.
No, and I don't disagree. I mean, yeah. But I mean, it's just that. But that's why I'm so grateful for people like you and what you do. You know, and I've always been intrigued because, and then the more I learn, and then, I mean, you know Barbara Harrington. I don't know if you know her.
I don't think you met Barbara.
I don't know.
She's my personal witch doctor.
She doesn't look like a witch.
No.
Not in the old standard.
No, not at all. She's a shaman also. So, and she literally opened up the universe to me. And what I've learned since then, I've only known her, like 5 years now?
Mhm.
It's mind-boggling to me. And I know what I have learned so far, I'm only scratching the surface. But it's already like...
I mean, I've had an opportunity to work with a few different shamans,
Mhm.
and some of the things that they did go beyond any kind of explanation to how things are said to work.
Right.
I mean,
Because it's energy.
there was nothing up the
Right, everything
sleeves.
is energy.
There was nothing up
energy.
the sleeves.
And here's the
exactly.
thing, you cannot create energy, you cannot kill energy, you can only transmute
Form
it.
it.
Right.
You know, and that's really what it's all about. It's about that energy, and whether it's the thoughts, what you say, it's all energy, it's all the same.
Well, I think in 100 years, medicine's going to be completely different.
I hope it doesn't take that long.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't.
I
take that
really
long
hope it
either.
doesn't take, and I think, so I mean, but then of course, the power of awareness, because now I pay more attention also, I believe there's a huge shift going on already because people really are tired of that. I mean, turn on the TV. I was laughing the other day, I told Jeff, I said, "Oh honey, we have a new disease, because there's some new medication for something." And we make fun of it. I mean, it's sad, really. it's really sad because they advertise the new diseases and now, oh, and there's a new disease and here's the cure for that.
And here are the side effects.
Oh, and here's the side effect,
vomiting,
and
death.
it's this
Oh,
one,
yes.
and the last one may cause death. I think I'm good.
Which one you want?
Yeah.
It's like death or death.
Personally, I like the one that makes me shake.
Right.
But
But I mean, it's pushed out through the media.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and there's so many people because unfortunately we are so fear driven and fear based, and it's like, oh, let's add a little bit more fear.
Yeah.
And yeah, now you need this because this is this new disease, and
You know.
those are the symptoms that you possibly could have, you know, and now you need this to prevent that.
What was sad in
And
pediatrics,
it's scary.
I had a kid come and he was singing a Claritin commercial to me. You know, he was singing the medication commercial, and he wanted that medication because it was on TV.
Right, and that's sad.
Yeah.
But
it's
unfortunately, there's so many people. But again, I believe that they're lacking the awareness. They're just not aware, and they're just they're on that hamster wheel. I call it the hamster wheel, that autopilot, you know. And it's like, yeah, there's more. It's like, oh, I need to do that because now that's what's being told. And I was like, don't.
Well, I think a lot of people, like my father's Hispanic, or when you grow up, you're taught not to question the doctor.
Right.
You know that they know best, and
That is true. That's another big problem.
and you
in
need
that.
to know. It has to be a partnership.
Well,
and
they went to school for so long, they must know.
Do you know when medical schools first started?
medical schools? Yes.
Schools.
Stool, it doesn't matter.
There's
Well, you
no-
have to
it's-
sit on a stool when
Well,
you
know
go
what
to
it is?
school.
That was one of
Oh, the
those things.
squirrels here.
The squirrels are here.
No, but see, you
Um,
have to sit on a stool when you're in school, so it works.
Right. Well, there's so much crap that's going on out there that.
Well, it's interesting if you go through the history.
I'm sorry,
of
I
it.
just
Anyone could go to medical school as long as you had the money.
Right.
You had no background, and there was no hands-on. There were a couple of lectures, and you were ready to go. That was the training. Until John Hopkins came along and said, I think too many people are dying. We have to have some standards.
Wow, that's
Well,
scary.
Yeah, it is. It's the history. So,
Oh, it's like, in the old days, like, was it in the Civil War, when a barber was also your dentist?
Right.
oh yeah, man, let's put a couple slugs on you too, and
Yeah.
Well,
We have come along. And my thing is, it's like, I believe that there's a place for Western medicine. I mean, sometimes you just really, you gotta have that. It's like, when I had my lower back fused. I'm so grateful we have that.
me too.
Because everything was so loose. I mean, my surgeon, he was like, surgery is our last option. I love that when your surgeon tells you, surgery is the very last option. And he looks at the MRIs and is like, can you come in Friday for surgery?
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So there's a time and everything, but it's our responsibility as the individual to question and not just take everything hook, line, and sinker. And just because the doctor says, this is what you have, because again, like my knee hurt, it's the knee, no, it was the back. It's like, question things. It's okay, it's your responsibility. And if you have symptoms that you have gone and write them down, bring them to your appointment and tell them it's like, this is what's going on, help them connect the dots.
Yes.
And not just go there for that one dot.
And it would be nice to have a healthcare system where you had a choice of massage, acupuncture, Reiki,
Oh, yes.
where it was actually funded and paid for. And
That would
so
be awesome.
that would be where you could actually do true integrative medicine where it was really covered in a way that people could afford it. I mean,
Right.
that's treating the whole person, the spirit, the body, mind over
Right.
matter.
And
That's
there are some people coming together, some doctors and chiropractors
Mm-hmm.
and acupuncturists and massage therapists in one office now.
Nice.
That is happening.
Do we have that in the Springs?
I think there is some here in the Springs.
Nice.
I wish I could remember because I was talking to somebody and I found that the
Go chase the squirrel, bring it
go
back.
yes.
Not Stanley, though.
Not Stanley.
Not Stanley.
Stanley is a squirrel that lived by her.
Oh, okay.
Up in Monument area, and had a little personality.
Oh, big personality.
Big personality. She was able to communicate. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. You got into the alternative stuff also, like the Reiki. You became a Reiki master, right?
Yeah, so I ended up doing Reiki before I actually knew what I was doing. So I had a dog who had anal glands removed, sorry, and she was
Hey.
really hurting.
You know?
And
It
so I got
happens.
up in the middle of the night and I just stood like this for an hour and I didn't know why I was doing it, but she was so red and swollen and tender, and the next morning she was like significantly better. So I had a feeling that I had probably done this before, but I always had a special connection with animals. But I came to realize it wasn't so much that I could hear them, but they could understand what I said, which was really strange. So
Yeah.
like Stanley, I'm in this little apartment down there and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm being watched. And I'm looking
Creepy!
on the couch.
Creeper alert!
So peeping Tom, and there's Stanley, and he's right against the window, and he's just staring into
So Stanley
my
is a
eyes.
squirrel?
hmm
Mm-hmm.
But when they know you can hear them, they just open their eyes, and he's just going, peanuts, peanuts. Where are my peanuts? So I'm like, okay, I'll get you peanuts. So he was there every.
That's funny. It's like, fade man. It's like that little orphan, you know, the old movies, the orphan looking in the restaurant window, like.
He wasn't afraid at all. He's like, you can hear me. I want my peanuts, with a shell or without.
Oh, that's funny. Salted, unsalted, boiled, not.
I don't care, he says, you know, just peanuts.
Just feed me, feed
Yeah.
me.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
Yeah, and you know, I saw it live, you know, come
Mhm.
over, and I went over to visit, and, you know, what, several months ago, and there she said, oh, that's Stanley. And, you know, and all of a sudden, she's like having this communication, and she gets the peanuts, and,
That's funny. That's awesome.
yeah. It's,
Yeah, so I'm beginning to believe it now, and so,
Well, Mo is talking to you.
yeah, he was.
So Mo, I learned with Mo. When he understands somebody can understand and communicate, he's like, listen to me.
Right, they come and they look at you and
Mhm.
and you're like, okay, you can hear me. What was really funny one time, this is how I knew it was kind of real. I was at a dog park with a dog and I was throwing, I think it was Micah, his dog actually, more his dog than mine. And you know, all the dogs are running around here and there was this one couple over there and they were just throwing the ball and the dog would get the ball and bring it back, and she wasn't interested in interacting with any of the other dogs. She just wanted to play catch within the dog park. But these dogs kept bothering her. So they were over there, they threw the ball, she got the ball, she came here, she sat in front of me with the ball in her mouth and said, and I said, you guys, you need to leave her alone because she just wanted to play catch with her parents over there, and the parents are going, what the heck is going on? And then she goes over there and I'm like, okay, there's something to this. So,
That's funny.
you know, if we all took the time to listen,
Hmm.
our worlds open up so
Oh my
much
gosh.
bigger. There's so much
Absolutely.
more
And
out
I
there.
attest to that. Like I said, I mean, about 5 years ago, I met Barbara. And there's stuff that's happening to me where I'm going like, whoa. What the heck? And it's like kind of cool, but it catches me off guard still.
Mhm.
And I was like, whoa, weird. And then it goes away, and I was like,
well,
I
it's
scared
okay.
it away again. Come back. I'm sorry. I was like,
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
But wouldn't that
I
be
just
nice
get
if
excited.
we all open up and see the energy and how we're all connected? There would be more compassion in the world.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because everything affects everyone. It's a butterfly ripple effect, whether you're an animal. Once you see that, I think there would be a lot less war. I think there would be more caring.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It'd be a different place.
And you know the thing is like we can spread love just as fast as anger and hate.
Oh, yeah.
You know, instead of lashing out in the first moment because that's what we're conditioned and we react, take a breath, ask yourself, and I get that from my friend Betsy Clark, is that helpful? If it's not helpful, if it doesn't move you into the direction you actually want to go, don't do it. Just stop.
Right.
And right there, I mean, it deflects and then smile at the other person. You know, I mean, it's huge. That again, that power of awareness. I'm huge on the power of awareness, in case you didn't notice.
Well, it's sometimes, using different things to diffuse possible situations, misunderstandings. I mean, this has nothing to do with, in some ways, some of the conversation, but in another way it does. I went and held the door, this is several years ago, for this one woman, and I opened
You mean you're
The
being
door?
a
the
gentleman?
door.
Not the dog.
I said the dog?
No, well, I was thinking dog.
No,
I didn't hear
no.
that.
You were being a gentleman?
I was being a gentleman, all right, and she turned
We
around.
I'm sorry, we also call it random acts of kindness.
Oh
And-
yeah,
Try it.
I am a high believer of that.
And, she turned around, angry, and berated me.
For
And
opening the
For
door.
opening the door for her. You think I'm helpless? You think I'm all this type of stuff? And, and I looked at her and I was like, no, I was just honoring the goddess. Yes.
So what'd she say?
She just went,
And that's
Yeah.
all it takes.
You know,
It's disrupt that pattern, whatever it takes, yes.
I'll hold the door open if I'm coming up and I see an older person coming behind me or someone else.
Or anything.
I'm not in any rush to I hold the door open for them. Fine. It's like, I do it for almost everybody.
And I'm just thinking, oh John, you can hold my door anyway and honor my goddess.
I was taught, as
Manners?
young man, manners
Right.
and stuff like that, but sometimes people take things so wrong from
Well,
the
everybody's a
original
victim,
intent,
but that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't, right?
Well, yeah.
Because, just like we were talking about medicine and its alternatives and how you shifted off fields, but, it all comes down to perspectives.
What? You
You
mean
know-
it's a matter of perspective?
Right, just like the different
Oh,
shows.
yes.
Yeah,
Different perspective?
yeah.
Different
So-
perspective?
I'm always all like, is it my
So,
turn?
Like, now, going back into some of this different training that you had, your Reiki master, right?
Mm-hmm.
How
Healing
long
touch
ago
for
did you take that?
animals. Oh, I think it's close to 10 years now.
Yeah. Healing touch for humans and animals.
Right, humans and animals.
But you'd rather concentrate on animals.
Well, it just kind of.
I mean, I get that. I mean, look at that face.
I know he's got the best eyes. They're so kind and gentle.
He's got the cutest, and I love it when he gets in trouble, and he does get in trouble every once in a while. He gives me puppy face, and I didn't know for the longest time that they can change their facial expressions, and he totally goes into puppy, and he looks at me with the big eyes, and
Yes,
he's like,
but yeah.
you love me. He's not talking, I know, he's like telling on me again.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
And then we did the shamanism
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
See, I want to learn more on that, on how to get into.
Yeah, it's very fascinating, and I was lucky enough to train also, and you did some training also with the Feather Way, which was Navajo, Garrett Duncan, and he brought a whole nother awareness to different elements, and
Nice.
she took some of the classes on that also. And all this is about connecting, I think, really to the energy field that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, even a traditional medicine person can do that.
it's my father, he's a surgeon, and he's not unlike, he's different because he's very personable and
Yes,
stuff
and
like
cares.
that. And I was into this energy Reiki. I was trying to explain to him, because we talked to angels too, and he was like, so he really fractured his leg one time, and I'm like, well, let me just try to do some Reiki, like the pain drain. And then he's like, oh my gosh, it's going. Oh, I can't believe this.
Mhm.
Next day, come do Reiki on me. Come do some more Reiki. Can you do that Reiki thing?
But and
Do
you
it on your
know,
mother.
but here's the thing: is like, so my husband, he does not believe in any of that.
Right,
Fortunately, he's not making fun of me anymore,
right.
and I love you for that, honey. And I said, if you would just believe a little bit and do some of the stuff with me, together we would be so powerful. And he goes like, man, I'm good. But here's what he does sometimes. He goes, honey, do your thing.
Or even if you're open-minded, just to see. So my dad, he's like, tell me how that talking to angel things work. you know.
You know, they start getting inquisitive. I mean, with my dad, one time he was, you know, having problems with his arm and he was going to get the surgery. I said, before you get the surgery, let me scan you. And I was visiting. They stayed up in the property upstate New York that we have in the summers. And I went over and I scanned him, and I kept finding a point on his head. I kept getting a pull in my hand. And the thing is that was pointed out by one of his doctors, who did muscle testing on him. And yeah, kinesiology. And he goes, that's exactly the area what he told him. I said, Dad, I think you might have had a mini stroke that's caused this thing. I said, you know, did they? He goes, well, my neurologist said my neck. And I said, did he take an X-ray? No, he never took an X-ray. But my dad
because he
started
has X-ray
believing
vision
me.
and he could see it.
Yes, you know, yeah.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
Yep.
But my dad at that point started believing. They never, you know, that just my weird son John, you know, just blow it off, you know, that type of thing. But they started listening more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when you had like the gut feeling about the chemotherapy and what not to try and what to
What
try
drugs?
and,
I did a lot of research too on it, and I got a hit, and I said, this one particular drug I get will help you, Dad, but this here, there's no, you know, I like I said, I did the research. I said, there's no clinical studies done people over the age of 65. Dad, you're at the time I think 88 or 90.
But didn't you get like a gut feeling?
Yeah, I got a gut feeling. I said, Dad, you have bleeding issues. You're on the blood thinners, and this one of the main things on this is
You got your candy.
severe uncontrolled internal bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
leading to death. And lo and behold, he's taken it the first two, and I said it usually happens after the third treatment. And my brothers all talked him into getting it.
Mm.
Lo and behold, the third treatment, all of a sudden my dad's blood pressure was down to 30.
Wow.
And my mom was like, you got internal bleeding. My mom's retired nurse. And called the ambulance, got him in there. They're trying to figure out what was on. He basically, I didn't know it, but they thought he was going to die.
Mm.
And then I flew out
Right.
and everything. And he's in the hospital. And I did some energy work on him. And while he was there, he let me do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up recovering. But that medication, which I felt was going to cause him some severe problems, did. Now the second one, and this is how the pharmaceutical industry sets it up, that in order to have this one,
You have
when
to.
that works, you have to take this one first.
And feel it or
Right?
On
And,
the
and
side.
all the results on that one, there was a lot of problems with it. But in order for them to sell their products, that you had to take the one that caused problems more before you were allowed to take this one. So when he started having issues with
That's
that,
just sad. It's
and they
just,
put him on the second one worked. He went into remission, you know, for several years, and
I think part of that is driven, and maybe the first tier one is a lot cheaper than the second one, so that might, I don't know if it's driven by evidence, or
Well-
if it's driven by cost,
well,
or insurance, I don't know.
you know, and you know, like I said, I did a lot of research on it, and it's especially, you know, the older the person got, the more side effects were shown, were
And the less studies.
in the less studies. Right, after 65, no studies.
Right, so a lot of times the preventative screening for cancers, you know, once you're 70, it stops because
You're old anyway. You're gonna die regardless.
that's exactly
Well,
it's sad to say, but it's like
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And it's funny, you know, you could still have 20-something years of productivity instead of, you know, like my parents were still very active into their 90s. I mean, very active. And it's just all of a sudden, you know, very quickly, boom, you know,
Wow.
time to go.
I mean, it's just, yeah. But, yeah.
Or like they wouldn't pay for PET scans anymore for your father.
Oh yeah, well yeah,
To see if the
and they would kept
cancer's
they
spread or
kept the
controlled.
explanation was the doctor canceled it, and we were on the phone one time. This is after the 6th time that it was approved and canceled. It wasn't none of our doctors because we were actually on the phone, the cell phone with it while we were talking to the insurance company. Oh, your doctor's canceled it. And we're like, no, we have the doctor on the phone right now. And they said they'd never, they can't figure out why it's not going through. It turned out the doctor that's associated
With the case.
with the drug company, the insurance company. The board said no. The doctor who sits on doesn't really review the case, probably looked at his age and said no.
That's
He's
bullshit.
too old.
Yeah,
And that's exactly what was going on. It was their doctor, the one
Who doesn't know, he just looks at the paper.
he looks at the
And
paper.
he looks at the age first.
right.
Pretty much.
And that's the only way to tell if the cancer is controlled or not.
Yeah.
Is with that. So.
That's so scary.
Well, my dad probably still would have been here.
Oh,
Wow.
and then just fighting with the mastoiditis and the
Oh,
septic
yeah,
knee and the just.
And I'm the
Which
one
is-
who ended up kind of diagnosing the problem with my dad.
Hmm.
Where-
He was in Florida.
Yeah, he was in Florida.
Right.
I mean, I sit there and, they've given him oral antibiotics, and I was like, well, I think intravenous antibiotics would be much better in this kind of circumstance, wouldn't you? And he was like, well, it probably would be.
Mm.
He goes, but, they might not do it because, I said, well, I'll do it.
Mhm.
So they trained me, and I did all my dad's IVs,
Right.
every day, twice a day. I did
Mm.
all his medical stuff.
Wow.
Yes.
See, and I wish insurance companies would get a clue, and pay for practitioners like you. Because I understand, I mean, people is like, man, yeah, I understand and I would like to do that. But for a lot of them, it's a money thing too. That's why they're not seeking the alternative, because the insurance company doesn't pay for it. And they simply
Right.
can't afford it.
Right.
Right.
And I get that. And I think the more people speak up, and that goes for you guys too, I mean, speak up about it, I was like, push for it. It's like, this is what we want. Eventually, they will have no choice but to listen.
Well, I mean, even the non-traditional ones, because we're technically not cheap,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to use we as the thing, but like me, I tell people, I work on a sliding scale.
Mm-hmm.
And if a person can't afford it, I don't charge them,
Right.
to do any of my
Mhm.
work.
And the thing too is like, so we're with TRICARE because we're military.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And so fun fact, TRICARE does not pay for chiropractic care for the spouses and family members. They pay for it for the service member.
Mm.
It's coming. Supposedly next year they're rolling it out to where we all can get like massages and get some of the alternative stuff as well as the family members. But I was like, how much money insurance companies would save if
It's
they
more
were
of a preventative,
Right.
whole healthy lifestyle.
right. Help me prevent so I don't. But anyway, that's a whole we can talk a week about that.
And then if you're not
So.
sure about what's going on with your healthcare, ask someone who knows about healthcare. I haven't charged for medical advocacy. It's just a really passion of mine.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, if they hire a patient advocate, you are not allowed to discuss with them the medical options. You just can direct them, but a true medical advocacy, I don't know if there's really any place that does it. Part of it is looking into the health, looking into the different options, explaining to them the pros and cons, but most patient advocates are not allowed to do that. That is not part of it.
How is that advocating for me then, as a patient?
Well, they can get you to where you need to go. They just can't, they can say the treatments, but most patient advocates aren't medically trained to know, like, the different
Well, as
treatments.
opposed to yourself.
Right, but I don't think
Because
there's
you-
true medical advocates.
But see, to me, and this is my brain, how my brain works. So technically, you could stir me into the direction that you all want me to go, but that's not necessarily the best thing for me, because I know what's best for me. If you give me the options, I can listen to my gut and make the decision. But if I don't have that,
Well, like, I had a
do
friend
you
that-
see what I'm saying?
With
Yes,
breast
yeah,
cancer.
yeah.
you know, and she had like MedShare, and she found a lump, and so she was just doing what her primary care said. Well, they have a breast care center here where you can be referred, you can be diagnosed, and you have a whole team. She had no idea that was available, and her primary care didn't offer that. So we were able to
Or mention it.
Or mention it.
Yeah.
So it's things
Knowledge
like
is
that.
power.
And then you have a whole team, and she found one surgeon she wasn't comfortable with, found another one that she loved, and advocated to, yeah, you have the right to switch, and then my father, I always ask my father, he advised that she take the other breast off because it's the same breast tissue. Well, because there wasn't a notable lump, insurance wasn't going to biopsy, so they only agreed to take that second breast off if she agreed not to have reconstruction because they would save the money from the reconstruction. The second breast had cancer.
It did?
It did.
Wow.
So it's just...
It's disgusting. I mean, if you look at it and really think about it,
But look at the
it's-
limitation they put on her to
Right.
have something rebuilt in her body so that, you know, she'd feel whole. You know, when you lose something part of your body, I think it can change you,
Oh, it does.
the outlook of yourself.
It does.
And, you know, they denied her the possibility of, you know, feeling whole again.
Wow.
And that's wrong in itself too.
There's so much wrong. But no, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm really glad there's folks like you, you know, who have this gift, who share the gift, and educate people on that, and also help, you know, dissipate that fear people have because it's unknown. It's like, oh, it's evil, and you know, no, it's not.
No, knowledge is power,
No,
and then you get the choice.
I'm sorry. Knowledge is potential power.
Potential power, depending on how you use it. That's
Yes,
true.
yeah.
That's true.
Right.
Because you can have all the knowledge you want if you don't use any of it.
Or
Right.
you can only have a little bit of knowledge and be dangerous.
But so yeah, knowledge is potential power.
Yeah.
But
It is
anyway,
giving people the choice
Right.
and giving the power back to them. And, you know, sometimes the choice is not to do anything, but as long as it's their choice.
Mhm.
Right.
And the
They
thing
have
is,
the
again,
right.
guys, you are your biggest advocate. Listen to your gut. Your gut knows. Your gut instinct knows. We know. Because how many times have we looked back and it's like, man, if I only would have listened to my gut.
Right, true.
And they say like 80% of your immune system is in your gut or something.
Right.
Your gut knows.
Your gut knows. So
Well, yeah,
you
but
are
there's
your
neurons
biggest
in your gut,
advocate.
in your stomach, and in your heart, and these things,
Right.
they don't have to go through the brain, which overthinks things and tries to find other areas to distract
You
itself.
mean the brain? You mean our ego takes over and all what?
Ooh.
The
You know,
No, but seriously, guys, listen to your gut. You're your biggest advocate. If you feel something is wrong, you know, in some area, but you feel it's coming from another, push for that.
Or change doctors.
Change
or
doctors.
Go see a PA or see a nurse practitioner. There are good
Something.
doctors, there are good PAs, there are good nurse
Right.
practitioners, and there are ones that are not so good. So find one that's a good match for you
Mm-hmm.
and keep on trying.
Right.
yeah.
Cool.
And how you know, if people have questions about what you've gone through and, you know, how you shifted through traditionalism into, you know, blending the non-traditional with the traditional in your thought process, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, my website is lmedwolf@msn.com. You can contact
Is that a
us through
website or is
the
that an email address?
email address, and through the Inner Light Center. I don't know, should I give my phone number?
No,
No.
because
Okay.
there's enough
So
spam
just
out there.
here.
But what we'll do is, and I do that with my other show,
Mm-hmm.
I'll put your contact info in the credits
Mm-hmm.
so people can contact you from there as well.
Oh, good.
And it would be nice, you know.
She's the director. Yes. The goddess.
Wouldn't it be
Oh,
nice?
thank
if
you.
we could-
Thank you very much.
If we could
Oh,
all
I'm wearing
share
a goddess ring
talents.
today too.
Ah, she's got a goddess ring.
Yeah, I like that one. I saw that.
It's a rainbow moonstone. It's called the goddess stone.
Ah,
Yeah, see? Yeah.
look at that. See
Open her
that?
door. I'm going all the way out. So I think it would be a great world if we could share all our talents, what we
Yes.
do well.
Hmm.
And it would be nice if it just didn't have to cost anything, as we could just... See, I always wanted to do a nonprofit that would be the Miracle,
I love
where
that.
you would just have your talents and people who needed it, and then you could just pair them up and make the world a better place.
Let's do it. I'm all for that. I really am all for it.
Yeah, Dinor's.
Because
But,
you may have a talent that may be someone else's miracle.
Well, and the other thing too is like I believe in barter.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And that's how it used to be in the...
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So.
I do trades all the time too. You know, the bartering.
Right. That's awesome.
So-
Anyway,
Yeah.
so we're at an hour.
So we can all be accessible.
Hmm.
You know, with knowledge, with talents,
Right.
gifts, and so
No,
forth.
I love that. So
So.
anyway, thank you so much for being here, Lori.
Thank
Appreciate
you for
that.
asking me.
And
Yeah,
I
thank you
can
for
I can
being
see
here.
us having you back.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'd like
Yeah,
to
we
do
only
that.
scratched the surface on this.
So you were actually our first guest. You were the second.
Oh, yes.
Our second show.
I'm the first
guest.
squirrel catcher.
That's right.
Yes,
Well,
Squirrel. Stanley? Where's Stanley?
Stanley and Rose.
Peanuts.
Peanuts.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My
Thank you
pleasure.
guys for watching. You know, and I end my other show
Thank you.
with always be happy, be kind, be love. Till next time.
Just be.
Bye. Just
Ciao.
be.